handed them in. He opened it and read it as a war diary and ordered it burned. I said, oh my God. 3 weeks went shot to hell. I can't even tell how many men we took off of the ship or where we took them from or anything. Now, who put me on report? He said, oh, and then the old chief warrant officer down at the dispensary. I said, oh, now I'll tell you what really happened. I said, this old guy, about once a month I was in charge of the laboratory and the pharmacy, and I give him a pint of ethyl alcohol, 190 proof. And so he did his ration. He hadn't had one for about 3 weeks, so he figured if he put me on report, I'll go back to my duty station and he'll get his ration. I said, you old son of a gun, you're not even going to get a teaspoonful, and most assuredly you better be long gone before I ever get back to duty station. Well, I spent another 3 weeks picking up bodies as many as we could. And we took off, I guess, about 109 altogether. And I had no idea 1,157 men was on the ship in December 41. But when I came back from Vietnam in 1974, I said, I got to go out and pay my respects to the men I left on the ship. And then after I got out there, I see, oh, they got a big white wall now with all the names of the men at their ranks, both Navy and Marine Corps. I said, my God, I left some 900 men aboard the ship. So after I finished up on December 7, 1941, I was called to go to Guadalcanal with the 1st Marine Division as a hospital corpsman. So I was there August, September 42. When I came back, like I said, I got married December 42. And I went to heaven. I'm not going to go aboard ship now. He said, you have to go aboard ship because this is preferred sea duty and you got to go aboard ship for sea duty. No, sir. So I went down to Aloha Tower, saw the recruiter and said, I want to join the Army. I said, sure, no sweat. So I was a pharmacist, made first class by now, so I went in the Army as a tech sergeant, E6. And I arrived out at the Schofield Barracks, went into the captain, and the captain said, oh, you're an NCO? And I said, yes, sir. He said, that's great, you're first sergeant. First sergeant? What's a first sergeant? I didn't have the slightest idea when the first sergeant was in the Army after being in the Navy for 8 years. But, so I went out and then arrived in Korea in August or September of 42. And I went all the way from Busan in the south to Sinuiju, 9 miles from the Owl in the north, when the Chinese came across with their human whale tank. And when I came back, I was assigned as honor guard and burial detail at Punch Bowl. And I had it, I guess, about 3 months, so they pulled us off. And in between, by 1955, John Michael Daniels, the USAR commander, said, Dale, we're going to Vietnam. Well, I said, okay, what are you going to do there? The French is still there in 55. No, we're going to go see what they're doing. So we went to Vietnam, came back. Of course, next year, 56, they got run out at Dien Bien Phu. We started going in 58 with our MAG, then our temporary equipment recovery mission to the International Control Committee. And then I was the Joint General Staff Vietnamese Armed Forces Intelligence at Tan Son Nhut. Those 65, I retired, 26 years service, and went back to Monterey, California Defense Language Institute, and the State Department asked me, once you go to Vietnam? I said, I just had 8 years there. He said, well, he said, the general up at Da Nang talked to us, and he tells us one thing, he tells his people something different. Well, in between, I had taken a year's course in North Vietnamese dialect and a 6-month accelerated course in French. If you go up and listen, see what he says, and let us know. So I was with Public Health Division, and I spent 6 years there in Vietnam. And then went down to Bachville in the south for another year, and back to Saigon as deputy exhibit to the Minister of Health. And finally in 74, they said, you better leave, they're going to take over. So I left and came back to Hawaii. And that about controlled my little speech in 1941. Thank you very much.
Or any visiting community members have any questions, if you could please introduce yourself and address whether your question is for either Mr. Kinsler, Mr. Kale, or both gentlemen in the media.
Hey, my name's John Leonard. I was wondering, how long did it take for the guns to get into action, and were all the troops delayed because of church and sleeping in from the night before?
Maybe perspective. How long did it take for everyone to get into action after we found out it was attacked?
As far as the Army is concerned at Schofield, our job was to get out of there as quickly as possible and get to the various beaches to prepare to repel an invasion. Fortunately for us, there were no invasion troops with the Japanese task force. But as far as anti-aircraft fire goes, I think that might have been within the next 5 or 6 minutes after the initial attack started. And certainly by the time the second wave arrived, the anti-aircraft was well in action, and it was a lot of the faulty ammunition from the anti-aircraft firing that caused the civilian casualties. The ammunition did not explode at various elevations or altitudes, but did explode upon contact with the ground in various sections of Honolulu.
I think as far as the Navy is concerned, every gun that could be manned was manned. I always said we had the best gunners in the world in the Navy. And they'd had the attack about 10 minutes later, they never even got to the island. Our gunners would have shot them down while they were still at sea.
Thank you very much. Next question, please.
All right, so you were just talking about the general guns, but in terms of you talked about having to break into an ammunition locker. Do you think that really slowed down the ability of the Army and the Navy to sort of bring anti-aircraft guns and other guns into action, or was that the larger issue just that everyone was asleep otherwise?
The ammunition for the anti-aircraft units was, in all probability, not readily available and had to be sent for or broken into the lockers that they had at the site. But there, as far as air defenses go, we had 14 Army pilots got up. And they were credited with shooting down several of the Japanese planes. Some of them were shot down themselves. 2 of the flyers were credited with about 4 planes each. That was Taylor and I forget the name of the other pilot.
I think as far as the Navy's concerned, breaking into Army